Well, hello and welcome to the Church Office Podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and it's a joy to welcome you today to our Admin and Ops podcast. We love talking about the work of ministry behind the scenes, whether it's policy, procedure, whether it's administration, operations, all those things we love talking about on the podcast. And we get pastors listening, we get people in admin and ops listening. And so thank you for joining us today on the podcast. I've got a special guest on today, Emma Joseph from the Globe Church in London. Welcome and hello to the podcast.
Hi,
it's
nice
great
to
have you on. Super excited to have her on. And we're going to be talking Church Administration 101 is our kind of subject. And we want to find out everything that Emma does in the week to bless her church. And so excited about that. Before we jump into our conversation, let me do a big shout out to our podcast sponsors. Church Suite, who do a fantastic job at serving churches up and down the country with a brilliant bit of software, cloud-based software, which is a great database. You can do your kids' registrations through it, your groups, your rotas. There's a whole thing of flows, events, calendar. I mean, this just it doesn't end, does it, Emma? This program. I don't know if you guys use it, but it is just fantastic.
I had to make a flow for something, and then I showed it to one of my staff team, and they were like, "Only you enjoy this. Like only you understand how good this is."
It is so good. It saves time and money and effort. So let me say, go and check out Church Suite if you've not heard of them. If you're using it, brilliant. And we're grateful to Gavin and the team at Church Suite who serve us, with this fantastic software. But we love their hearts for ministry and their hearts for the local church, and I think that's where we have really connected and grateful for this partnership. Emma, tell us a little bit about you and where you're based.
Yeah, I live in central London, in sort of a stone's throw of the Oval Cricket Ground.
Okay.
I'm not a cricket fan, but that's probably the nearest landmark that people can identify with to where I live. I live with two really good friends that I've lived with for a couple of years, and I work for the Globe Church, which is a FIEC church in the heart of London in Elephant and Castle.
Yeah. No, I remember that train station because it's kind of a weird name, isn't it? Yeah.
It's very strange. Everyone shortens it to E&C. If I'm writing a quick WhatsApp, quick email, be like E&C.
Yeah.
And we meet in a school, sort of five-sided school hall. And yeah, we like it there. We've kind of ended up there after a few years of being a bit itinerant, and that's where God's put us for now, which is lots of fun.
Now, that's great. And one of the interesting questions that I love asking church administrators and church managers is how they got into it, because there's such a diverse way that people come into this. You don't get trained, you don't come out of school thinking, oh, I want to be a church manager or serve in this role. Emma, what was the journey like for you? Tell us a bit how it started.
It's really funny you say that, because that's what I tell people. I say no one's in school at like 5-6 years old and goes, when I grow up I want to be an administrator. It just doesn't seem to be the career dream that people have. I'm pretty young still, so I'm 28, and I ended up kind of falling into a couple of different roles that really suited my kind of strengths post university. When I first moved to London, I thought I'd be here for 10 months. And 7-ish years later, I'm still here, breathing in the pollution and enjoying the buzz of the city. But I first moved post uni to do a discipleship year with UCCF as a relay worker. And I ended up getting a bit of a flavour at that point for event planning, organising things, working in a team. And then I got a job with them for 3 years as a staff worker, but I had this kind of unique role that they haven't repeated a couple of times since, where I was a kind of project management event planning staff worker for Central London UCCF, and that was loads of fun. I got to put together different events, support a team with training and projects, got to work with a really great team leader at the time. And then that was kind of coming to an end, and people were sort of saying, oh, what are you going to do next? Where are you going to go? Are you going to move back to South? I grew up in South Wales, so I just thought about moving back there. And then I heard some rumors that church wanted to hire an
Rumors. I
operations
like
manager.
that.
Honestly, rumors. And I don't know whether he would remember this, but I grabbed my pastor John Alcock for a coffee
Yeah.
at Word Live, and I sort of sat him down and I said, look, I've heard these rumors, and if you're thinking of doing this, I'd love to apply, but you need to get your act together because people are asking me to do other stuff.
Yeah.
And I need to make some plans. So I hope that conversation was helpful to him to kind of go, okay, let's do this. Let's write a job description and let's put out that advert. But yeah, I think I really sensed like a moment at Globe where we needed someone to come in and help us be a bit more effective in what we were doing. I think the goal was to kind of streamline and strategize and make us a bit more sustainable. We're going to be 10 years old in September.
Brilliant.
And we were 7 years old when I started. And it was definitely the moment to kind of take someone on in that role. And I was really excited to move into kind of church based work, be a bit more local, be a bit more based with my church family. So that's what happened. I kind of fell into a couple of different jobs.
I love that. I love the fact that you approach the senior pastor and say, come on, get your act together. you want to get this job out, let's do it. I love that. And I think you're right.
I think that set a nice precedent for our relationship, but it's been great.
It's good. And I know so many churches who are kind of like they started out similar to Globe. You get to so many years into it and then you go, okay, the church is creaking, things are falling through the gaps, or we're just at capacity. When do we bring an administrator on? And I think, it sounds like it was a kind of strategic point where it was like, right, let's do this. And you've obviously made a huge difference in the church, I'm sure. And if we were to get your senior pastor on to have a chat, I'm sure he would say that is the case, because the admin and ops just build this lovely capacity, not just in one ministry, but across the whole church. And there's something quite wonderful about that. Tell us a bit about the church then, and give us a little bit of a flavour of that.
Globe is great. It's loads of fun. If you're ever visiting Central London, we get loads of visitors and people are really welcome. Globe was set up to be a sort of FIEC hub within London. There wasn't really an FIEC church in South London in particular, and I think people much older, wiser than me noted that if the FIEC was going to continue to grow and have leaders in particular, we needed a church in Central London that young professionals would go to. And we have a bit of a strapline. It's something like, we want to be all about Jesus, made up of all types of people on the greatest mission. And I think thinking about it like that is really helpful to me. So we want to be all about Christ, and we have a kind of majority of like sort of young workers, but we really strive to be more than that, to have all kinds of people with us, loving and serving Christ together. And we see ourselves as a bit of a training and sending church. So we have the privilege of kind of lots of people joining us for a short amount of time, where finding a place where they can have community, go on a bit of mission with us in Central London, and then be trained and equipped and then sent out. We lose probably 20 to 30% of the congregation every September, but kind of over the summer people move for a variety of reasons, like job roles, life changes, might move to Australia to go traveling, who knows. And then we equally gain that every September. So it's always changing, it's really dynamic. There is a wonderful core of people who are kind of committed to being at Globe and being part of that training and sending vision, and also that kind of local outreach is what you need, that like core base to do sustainable outreach to a local area that's really diverse. But that's kind of what Globe's like. We meet in the afternoon at the moment on a Sunday at 4 o'clock in this quirky school hall. I love it, and I think it's got its challenges, but we try and really we have a couple of values, and one of those is generosity.
Yeah.
And try and really uphold that as a value where we say it's good that people go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really hard, but
Yeah.
it's also really beautiful. And I was in the office the other day actually, and I was in a meeting with a ministry trainee, and then I sort of look through the window in the room, and I see someone come in the door who is currently living in France, who went
Okay.
to be a part of a church plant there.
Yeah.
And they were with two people who had a couple of months before decided to join a local church in Croydon. And they
Okay.
just popped in to say hi, to have a
Yeah.
cup of
Yeah.
tea,
Yeah.
um, to pray together, and then they left. And I just thought, like, that's beautiful that we
Yeah.
get to um, have people in the church family and then train and send
Yeah.
people to be a blessing elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Globe's like.
That's part of your kind of vision and what you guys are doing.
Part of the DNA.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. That's great. And you were saying you've got a small office in central London that you guys all kind of work to in a bit of an open plan office. And what kind of roles have you
Yeah.
got on the staff team? What are your
It
full-time or part-time?
it moves and changes a little bit every year, but senior pastor and two ministry leaders who are women who are a bit older, kind of
Yeah.
overseeing and looking after different ministry areas in the church around pastoral care and discipleship.
Yeah.
And then we have two, anywhere between 2 and 4 ministry trainees,
Yeah.
depending on the year. Some of those would be part time, some of them would be full time. And then we have a student worker who
Okay.
is part time, and then me.
And you as well. And you're full-time.
Yeah, full
Okay.
time. And I work. I work Sunday.
Okay.
I think that's been more helpful
Yeah.
for me. So I do Sunday to Thursday,
Okay.
and I work each, and we all kind of work together. If we're working, we try and be like physically together in
Yeah.
this
Yeah. Yeah.
little
Yeah.
office that we have. The office is round the corner from the school, and it's a bit of a storage unit for all our stuff, as
Okay.
well as a space where we kind of work,
Yeah.
open plan. Got a couple of desks, and then trainees are kind of sat in the middle on a big desk,
Yeah.
and it's great. Like um, I love being able to turn to the people I work with and say,
Yeah.
"What do you think?" Like
Yeah.
I often say, "Does anyone have any thoughts? Is there
Yeah.
any kind of can I do a bit of market research on the people in the
Yeah.
room about how this would land?" And
That's
that
so good.
works. It works 2 ways as well. Like
Mhm.
pastors and like pastoral workers get to turn around and say, "Oh, what do you think about
Yeah. Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Like this is
Yeah.
or this is hard. Let's
Yeah.
talk it through." And it means our trainees are with us all the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think feel really well supported, which is nice.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? And there's just a whole wealth of knowledge and different gifting in the room, which, say, Emma, how do you do this? Or what do we're going to put this event on. And we see this is going to really serve the church, and you're able to give some input, and others are able to give, and the trainees are going to be busy getting to work on all this work. And yeah, I love that. I love that kind of being present, and yeah, very relational, which is for me one of the best ways to work, isn't it? If we love working with
Yeah.
the people that we're with, and we've got a real sense of team, and the different gifts are valued on that team, what a dream that is, isn't it? That everyone's running in it
Yeah.
and just using what God has given them to serve the church is wonderful. So tell us, so you're
Yeah.
doing now. Most administrators are going to love this because you're working Sunday, which is for many people they do sort of Monday to Friday, they get Saturday off, and then Sunday's like, oh, what is this kind of day? But you guys have really clearly got this kind of nicely mapped out that you work Sundays and then Thursday and Friday off. That sounds quite nice. Oh, sorry, Friday and
Mm,
Saturday off, isn't it?
Friday,
That
Saturday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Friday,
Friday,
Saturday off,
Saturday.
which sounds lovely. Yeah, fill us in about your week then. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think um, Mondays is probably a good day to start with. That's the day that we try and get everyone working in
Okay.
some sort of hours, and um, we have a bit of time in the morning where we literally just clear up from
Okay.
church plant post Sunday
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
The office can be a bit of a dumping ground if we're not careful, so we do a bit of tidying all together.
Yeah.
And then we have lunch on a Monday, and then we have a staff meeting.
Yeah.
So I'll take us through a bit of like a review of the previous week and
Yeah.
a look forward to the coming week and anything in the future. And that's like a really helpful kind of catch-all
Yeah.
time. And around that, we'll do some prayer for one another and the church family. And we also do a couple of times a month a bit of training as a whole team. So someone might share what they learned at a conference recently, or they've been like a trainee's been to a session that they just thought was amazing at a training day, and they can share that with us. Or we might read a book together over a couple of weeks. And again, I really love that kind of equality of team that we're training together and learning together each week when we do training. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are somewhat undefined. I go in at 9 and I see what's before me. I see what the Lord has set before me.
What's before me. I like that.
And it can be anything from like I was saying earlier, I was writing like a staff handbook this week, or one of my like goals for our 10th birthday is to make us feel a bit more like a 10-year-old church with some sort of good policy and procedure. So I might work on like a complaints process, or ask the elders to like review a policy because it's been up for 2 years, something like that. But also just loads of ironing out issues between different ministry areas. I'm not like I'm the middle woman of lots of things. So and so has this problem and I'm over here, and I might kind of bring them together and fix something, or and then just like the daily grind of ordering things online or booking venues, uploading invoices to different portals and payments. But then also doing a bit of like staff management as well. So I'm a line manager, our ministry trainees, and make sure that they take holiday and all that kind of good stuff. And I think one of the like privileges of working at Globe and having been a member there before I worked there is that John T in particular, the pastor, has a really good sense of what I'm good at, and me as like a whole person. So I also occasionally get to do a bit of discipleship with people, a bit of reading the Bible or meeting up with a non-Christian, so look at a gospel, or working on. I also do a bit of work on our small groups, making sure they are kind of administratively working as well as helping people. I'm part of a group that kind of thinks about material for small groups. So it's really, I love that I haven't been put in a box. Where I just have to do administration, and I love that part of my week is being part of a decision-making process. Like I don't just get to plan the weekend away, but I might have a small say in the content as well, or who might we invite as a weekend away speaker 2 years time. And I think a real plus of working at Globe, I just feel really valued by ministry workers, that I have a say. I've got
that's great.
Game, as it were.
It's really good, and I think you're right, isn't it? You're not just there just as an implementer, do this, but you're there going, how do we work this process better? How do we serve the church more effectively? And you're right, a lot of our role is that kind of translation of vision and being able to be a little bit more strategic and go, this really works, this could work. And so it's great to hear that there are, and the more senior pastors that I'm talking to, the more churches I'm talking to, a lot of senior pastors have a similar heart. It isn't just about finding someone to do this job description, but about finding the right person who fits the culture, who loves the church, who loves God, who is able in lots of different ways, and how can we help them to play a part in this team, rather than it be just right, here's your job description, get these things done. And I love that, and I think the other approach has challenges, but what you're experiencing at the Globe Church is not everyone's norm. And if you're a senior pastor listening to this, or a pastor that's got responsibility for staff in sort of admin and ops, go away and reflect on this a little bit. And there's things that we have to get done every week, but just drawing in someone into a team, understanding the process, understanding why we do something, makes a massive difference in that, and makes it really effective in terms of the gospel. Let's move on then. Tell me what we've probably already started this conversation, but in terms of like, what do you love Like, what gets you out of bed? You know, what are the things that you just like, oh, I'm so glad today's happening because I'm doing this task. What does that look like for you?
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. Someone asked me a couple of weeks ago, how long might you do this for?
Yeah,
Like I'm quite young. I'm at that point where people might change jobs quite a lot.
yeah, yeah,
And I haven't done that. And I was thinking, and I said to them, um, I I wake up every day, and I love my job, and
hmm
I want to work with the people that I work with, and
yeah,
I have the immense privilege of getting to serve my church family
yeah,
for a
yeah,
number of hours every day, and that's not always easy, and
yeah,
it can be quite hard, and maybe like some interpersonal stuff can be difficult. um
yeah,
being the same age as a lot of the people in the church has been a bit of a challenge, whilst also working, like who are my kind of close friends, whilst also thinking
yeah,
who are what are these relationships like with these
yeah,
people. But
yeah,
generally speaking, I wake up every day and I want to go to work, and I love being a part of helping people to be a part of the body of Christ.
yeah,
It's quite a long way of
yeah,
saying it,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think if
yeah,
I went to a session at a course I go to about the kind of reality of what the church is, that the church is
yeah,
new temple, it's a body of believers. And I just got thinking that I get to help that flourish every
yeah,
day,
yeah,
whether that is ordering food for our like monthly homeless
yeah,
meal,
yeah, yeah,
or it's complaints process, or it's like making sure we actually have spaces to do stuff in
yeah,
because we don't have a building.
yeah,
And that's what I love. I love
yeah,
that I get that privilege, and it's a privilege. It's hard
yeah, yeah,
work, but
yeah,
to do that every day
yeah.
is a real joy. And
Yeah, I love that. I love that. One of the things that I
yeah.
love doing, and people kind of go, "What? You love doing this?" Like, I love finance days, finance report days. Like, I love getting in a spreadsheet, doing a report, going through all the kind of things. How are we doing on this quarter in our giving? How are we doing in our spending? What are some of the ways that we can save? Like, that's like my kind of happy place. I love all that
Mm,
kind of days in finance are great. I really do love that. But I think you're onto something there. That enabling of others to play a part in the church family, that ability to
mm,
mobilize the church is something quite special that we get to be involved in. And God's working
yeah.
in people's hearts and calling them to serve, them being stirred to be involved in ministry, and then us helping and enabling them to do that. I mean, there's something
Mm,
spectacular, and I think we get the privilege to sit on that front row and see God at work in the
mm,
church in a unique way. And some of the things are
yeah.
practical, some of the things are financial, some of the things are just new roles and new people stepping into roles. And that just excites me. I get a real buzz from just being involved in that and seeing people flourish in that. So
Yeah,
there's so much, isn't there?
this little like you get this little open door into people's you get to see people's generosity,
Yeah,
you get to see
yeah,
people's gifts being used, or and also hear about the hard things and the difficulties, and
yeah,
maybe get to support people in that.
yeah,
um and I think I'd also say I love the people, like I
yeah,
love the team I work with,
yeah,
and the elders are like godly men who work so hard
yeah,
to make
yeah,
sure we're kind of both a good organized registered charity
yeah,
as well as kind of shepherding the church
yeah,
family. And I love helping people settle at Globe. I think
yeah,
we have a really fantastic like newcomers team, but helping them a bit with like the admin side of that, making sure that people don't just come on a Sunday and then
mm,
not kind of know how to connect further with people.
yeah,
Um, I think I feel encouraged that like every interaction really matters, and that
yeah,
people know where to go when they don't know how to join a small group,
yeah,
or
yeah,
where the prayer meeting is, or how to become a church member.
yeah,
Um, and because we're welcoming people all the time, that works every year. We do that all the time,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
we've got to be good at it. Otherwise,
yeah, yeah.
people
That's
don't
right.
feel welcomed.
particularly in what you were describing about sort of 20-30% of the church leave over the summer, and then there's this whole new bunch of people in September. That sounds great. And I think you're right. For us as administrators and managers, we do create pathways, don't we, for people to get involved in the church. I love being at a new members course because I know at some point I'm going to get the opportunity to interact with them, find out about their passions, find out where they've got gifts, and then start to think about how we can deploy them in the church and what difference that's going to make for the gospel. And I just love all that stuff. And these are the fantastic parts of the work. What have you found some of the more challenges? Because it's not always rosy, is it, in this ministry? And I know people who've listened to the podcast who's not, their experience might not be the same as what we've had. But what are some of the challenges that you find in this role?
Yeah, I think I came into it with very little like formal training in anything really, apart from like lots of experience and lots of good gut instinct and lots of good kind of maybe decision making about what would be a good thing to do. Good instincts, that's what I'm looking for.
Good wisdom, maybe.
Good wisdom in God's kindness. But I think I've ended up maybe being a kind of jack of all trades, master of none. But that's been a challenge. And I think feeling not always equipped for certain roles. But again, like I think this is where the kind of team stuff comes in, that I feel I have a privilege of feeling very able to say, well, I'm not actually quite sure, and like I think need more support on this, or and Globe is really open now that I've kind of settled into the role over a number of years to do some formal training in some things. So I'm kind of working on what that would look like at the moment. And I think another challenge would be kind of knowing what your role is, knowing what part you play. I think people in administration can sometimes feel, well, it's not my pastor's job, and it's not the elder's job, and it's not the kind of pastoral worker's job, and it's not the student worker's job, and the trainee is currently too busy and a bit overwhelmed to do it, so I'll do it. And that's been, and sometimes that's just like the messiness and the beauty of working at church, that we all kind of muck in and do laminating, printing, like all that kind of that kind of stuff, like emptying a box of kids' toys and cleaning them. Like sometimes it just has to be done. But I think that's been a challenge, knowing when to say, I'll just pick that up because I've got capacity and I'm full time, but then also saying, actually, no, I need someone else to do that, because otherwise I'm never going to get to this thing on the bottom of my list that is actually really important.
No, you pick up on two really good points there, Emma. I think you're spot on, isn't it? Because I think when you start the role, you need knowledge in like charities, you need finance, you need kind of negotiation skills when you're hiring and booking. You need all that kind of wisdom in relating to policy, and then you're working with volunteers, and so that the list of categories goes on, and you can feel like I don't feel like I'm particularly good at any one of these, but I need to do all of these. And so it does feel like a confidence thing at the start of, well, how am I going to manage to keep all of these things spinning and going? And I've certainly met a lot of church administrators, and that can be a challenge. And your second point on priorities and knowing what is priority is hard, isn't it? And if you haven't got the relationship with a senior pastor to go, let's sit down together and work out what do we need to do first. So I used to go to our senior pastor and say, right, I've got these 10 things to do. I don't know what to do first. I'm thinking it's this, and this. And he would always choose like the top 3 totally different to what I had. And I'd be like, oh, I didn't even think that you'd be, that those would be interesting to you, that those would even be important to you as a senior pastor and elder. And I think sometimes just being able to bounce that off somebody is so helpful. And if you haven't got somebody, like find someone if you can, or ask for that support. And I love the fact that you can do that, not just with a senior pastor, but with a team. And I can where I am. But that support is so important, isn't it? Because that can be a real challenge. I don't feel supported. And there's moments
And
like that for everyone, isn't there?
yeah, actually, right now, for one reason or another, one of the elders is my line manager. And I think
Okay.
that has been a bit of a challenge. Like, who do you find to line manage the
Yeah.
person that's really good at line managing everyone else, or who
Yeah.
does that for that person?
Yeah.
Um, and he's been really helpful in thinking, and I think that he has a similar vision for what I'm doing at the moment, which is
Yeah.
helping us feel a bit more
Yeah.
established,
Yeah.
a bit more 10 years old on our 10th
Yeah. Yeah.
birthday,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And he's been really helpful. And again, I see that as a real gift
Yeah.
that not everyone would have. I feel
Yeah.
really well looked after,
Yeah.
and
I love
that's
that.
amazing.
That is great. And I love your 10-year vision to get this sorted, on our anniversary, I'm gonna have everything done. And you
Yeah,
give yourself a
everyone's
bit
going to
of
be
room.
at this. We're planning a bit of a birthday party.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be there, like eating their meal, and I'll just be
Yeah.
gazing at all the
Yeah.
policies I've
I
written,
was like,
thinking about
yes,
how good that
I
is.
did it. I got there. We got there by God's grace. I love that. I love that. Emma, so you've been in this 3 years.
Yeah.
And if advice for someone listening to the podcast who picks this up going, okay, I'm about to take on a role in a church. I'm starting off here. What advice would you have for them as they kick off this new role?
Mm, yeah, I thought a lot about this question. I think I think I felt bad for a while that I hadn't done the hard things until the last 6 months.
Okay.
So I started in sort of 2022, it's now 2025, and I've only been tackling some of the tougher things in the last 9 months.
Yeah.
And I think I felt a bit guilty about that for ages.
Yeah.
But if you've, so my advice would be if you've got the time to slow down and I did make quite a lot of changes, helped us in lots of ways over the first 2 years, but I didn't sit down and write a complaints process. I didn't
Yeah.
write a start book. Like those have been the kind of
Yeah.
things that have been a lot harder to do
Yeah.
for me. So I
Yeah.
think I would say to someone, work out what you can do that's actually quite sort of simple and easy and effective and will make quite a big difference. And then spend a bit of time maybe surveying landscape. And I was a member at Globe before, and I thought I had quite a good understanding of what the kind of need was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I only came to realize that maybe a year. I think it took me a year to learn how to do things. It took me another year to become good at doing those things and a bit more
Yeah.
kind of savvy. And now I think I'm having a year of making bigger changes
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
implementing things that are a bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd say don't feel bad for not doing the hard
Yeah.
things straight away.
Yeah.
And I think more spiritually, the thing I've really struggled with is remembering that I firstly serve God, not anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the greatest privilege of this job to serve the church family every day, and particularly staff team and elders. But I don't actually serve them first. I serve God in what I'm doing day to day. And I I think in sort of first, second year of the role, I found myself crushed when things would go wrong.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, why is that? Why do I feel like this? Small things like the booklets for small group would arrive late. And I'd feel awful about it because I felt like I was meant to be the person that made things better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was meant to be the person that made sure these things didn't happen.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's because I was looking for affirmation in my work based on how much I had pleased people
Yeah.
and based on how much like easier I'd made their lives or how much more streamlined I'd made things for
Yeah.
a small group leader or a church family. But actually, I serve God first,
Yeah.
not them. And I think I'd say so. My advice would be don't put too much stock in what the
Yes.
entire church thinks of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even, I often say to people, it's like having 200 opinions
Yeah. Yeah.
on the decision you've made, and everyone gets to see it.
Yeah.
And that's at different points has been quite hard.
Yeah.
But I need to remember every day that I serve God, not anyone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Um,
That's great, Emma. Really encouraging, isn't it? Because you're right. We can lose that can't we? And we can miss the fact that, this is a real privilege to serve, and we serve God, and it's about his glory in everything that we're doing. And then we want to seek to be good to those around us, and in different ways, so we can do that. You've given some great advice there. And I think what I find with lots of church administrators and managers is that they put a lot of pressure on themselves when they start a role. And you're right, either to try and justify it to the church that, yes, they finally got a post for this, and I'm going to show them that they needed it, and almost that kind of justify your work. But if you get stuck in that, on that treadmill, it's going to be tiresome, and it's going to be hard work. But yeah, just enjoy the role, enjoy the grace of God to you, recognize the gifts that you've got, and just start using them and be a blessing to people. And yeah, don't put pressure on yourself. And I think, you're also adding on there as well that how much clarity is needed, isn't it? Having clarity, and not running at things such a pace that you miss things. And so your pace, I love it. So the first year I came in and thought, right, what can I start with? I love that. Second year, okay, I feel like I've got a bit more confidence. I know a little bit more about what I'm doing. Third year, right, I'm on this now. Right, what am I need to make some strategic changes that are really going to make a difference? And that's taken 3 years, but that's a really good use, a useful use of time and effort in those first 3 years. So good advice for someone who's listening to this. You don't have to get everything sorted straight away. By the end of the first week, we want it sorted. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, take the pressure off yourselves, I think. And senior pastors, if you've got that as well, you're listening to this, take the pressure off. Yeah. How can you get alongside them, bring clarity, help them to serve, help them to use their gifts, which is really, really good. Anything else that you think would be useful? Anything you wish you'd known before you started the role? I mean, that's always an interesting question.
Yeah. I think I've been doing a bit of thinking lately, and it kind of links that question of people saying, oh, how long are you going to do this for?
Yeah.
Like how long might you work for Globe? And my current thinking is that I could do this for quite a while, and that would be a really beautiful thing. I've been thinking a lot about gifts, spiritual gifts, and we want to like eagerly desire lots of different gifts of like teaching and preaching and evangelism and hospitality. And I think personally, I want to eagerly desire and grow in the gift of administration.
Yeah.
And what might that look like? And I could easily, I think, relatively easily leave this job and get a decent job in sort of project management in a London charity, or a much different, let's be realistic, maybe slightly better paying role.
They all pay better.
But but why not? I think I've been thinking, why not stay? Why not grow in this gift? And I think that's that line of thinking, that way of thinking about my job is really helping. I don't think church administration is ever going to be the kind of similar like level of vocation that being a pastor is. But I think if I can sort of tilt how I think about my role to being a little bit more vocational, like a life lived for God's glory that I've chosen, rather than a job I've fallen into, that will help me keep going and help me stay in a role that I can see myself having lots of like good impact in, rather than always thinking, oh, could I leave and do something else and be a bit better paid.
You're right. I think God,
and that's really helping me at the moment.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, God sometimes calls us to seasons, doesn't he? And we could be in a season for a long time. I've had a similar approach to you, and just I've loved our church, loved serving it, and you could go and do what the world might consider some bigger and better things and be paid more and all those things. But I've been serving our church for 21 years, the church manager. So you got a few to catch up on him. I do. And I just can't think of giving it up, and the stuff I'm doing with the church office, I love, and I love being able to support other churches. and maybe at some point, maybe my hours will change and I'll do less at the church and more on the church office. Who knows? But God's going to work that through, and I can trust him in that. But the thought of giving up anything to do with the church, I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. I think they're going to have to kick me out if they want me gone. It's going to have to be one of those, we don't want you anymore, we're going to get rid of you.
It's quite addictive in its own way.
Because it's gospel
joy.
ministry, isn't it? And this is about God's glory and people coming to know Christ and taking this good news of Jesus out there. And what we see is there is a real need for admin and ops people in churches that enable gospel ministry to be, fruitful, to reach new places, to start new churches. All these things take a degree of management and operation. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're involved specifically in this, and as you're listening to Emma and I and we're chatting, thank you for what you're doing. Your church may not say thank you to you. They may not. You may not be in a place where that happens a lot. But please be reminded today, the contribution that you're making, God sees, God enjoys, and God has equipped you to serve the church in this way. And what you're doing is making a difference. And one of those things, isn't it? It's hard to assess fruit, isn't it? You look back on 3 years and think, right, what have I done? It's hard, but actually you have been, and other people will see that. And it's even better when our church leaders see it and encourage us. So let me encourage you on that. Emma, amazing to speak to you. I absolutely adore your heart and love what you're doing. So well done, and thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing a little bit about it.
And no, it's been lots of fun. I love talking about it, actually, once people get me going.
I will have you on again. And please think of any way that you can get more involved in the church office. We'd love to have you, involved. If you've got something you want to write, an article or whatever, I'm publicly asking you on the podcast, get involved and do some more, because you've got a wonderful heart. You get this, and it's so encouraging to hear. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
Thanks so much.
If you've got any questions for Emma and I, you want to take a visit to come and see one of our churches, or you want to learn from us or ask us more questions, then please do, and get in contact at info@thechurchoffice.co.uk, and we'd love to link up with you. And if there's a way that we can encourage you or serve you in some way, then please get in touch. Again, please check out the website and the new documents that are added. There's a whole range of podcasts on loads of different topics, something that might be of interest for you, something that you might just need to hear right now. That might be a blessing. So please check those things out, and we'll see you again on the podcast. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.